In the winter of 1881, when reputations were folded into every hemline and duty outweighed desire like lead in a corset, a girl sat alone in a velvet-draped carriage, gliding toward a life she had not chosen. Her name was Isabelle d'Arlon, and the empire she was bound for called her a future empress. Outside, the trees of Osteria stood tall and skeletal, their branches etched in frost. Inside the train, a hush lingered. No chatter, no comfort, only the steady rhythm of wheels slicing through snow-covered silence. Isabelle's gloved hands rested in her lap, perfectly still. Her dress was traveling blue, modest but exquisitely tailored, the color of restraint. On the seat beside her, wrapped in linen and reverence, lay her wedding veil, hand-stitched, flown in from Paris, rumored to be so fine it could be pulled through a ring. She hadn't asked for lace. She hadn't asked for a crown either. A knock on the door jolted her thoughts. Baroness Facette, severe and loyal to the empire first, family second, entered without smiling. "The capital awaits, Your Highness," she said, eyes cool but respectful. "I am not a highness yet," Isabelle replied quietly. The Baroness tilted her head. "To Osteria you are." Isabelle turned back to the window. Vienna loomed ahead, foreign, imperial, indifferent. She clutched the folded letter in her coat pocket, unopened since her mother pressed it into her hand that morning. She would read it later. Perhaps. She was promised a crown, but it did not feel like a gift. As the carriage wheels rolled through the narrowing streets, Isabelle sat straighter than she felt. She had not been raised for this. Her world had been one of faded tapestries, modest salons, and whispered dinners where her father rarely spoke unless about politics. He was a proud man, once respected in court circles, now tolerated only for his title. When her older sister eloped with a French painter, Isabelle had become the family's last fragile hope. At 16, she had not lived a life of courtly splendor, only of silent expectations. And now they had sent her here to marry the future emperor, a girl with no voice, no choice, and a name that barely held value beyond her dowry. Vienna greeted her not with warmth but with choreography. Trumpets, uniforms, rows of dignitaries whose faces blurred together beneath powdered snow. A black carriage waited at the station, flanked by Imperial guards in gold and gray. As Isabelle stepped onto the platform, she felt 1,000 eyes judging her carriage, her complexion, the way she walked. They smiled, but only with their mouths. The Baroness motioned her forward. "You will be taken straight to the Winter Palace. The Empress is expecting you." As the horses pulled them through narrow cobblestone streets, Isabelle caught glimpses of the old city, the iron balconies, the candlelit cafes, the curious citizens peering out from behind drawn curtains. She wondered if any of them had ever truly loved the people they married. The palace loomed ahead like a myth, tall as judgment, carved in white stone and crowned in silence. She was led through high arched doors, down endless marble corridors. Courtiers lined the walls like sentinels, nodding in unison. Every bow felt like a performance, every smile a rehearsed lie. The Empress was waiting in a salon flooded with afternoon light. Her dress was deep plum, her brooch heavy with family crests. She did not rise to greet Isabelle. "You are taller than I was told," she said, eyes narrowing. "I was not told what to expect at all," Isabelle replied. A silence stretched. Then the Empress said, "You must learn to be quiet before you are wise. That is the path of every woman who wears a crown." The next morning she was measured for the wedding gown. The room was warm, filled with bustling seamstresses and too many mirrors. The silk gleamed under candlelight, smooth as snow. They spoke around her, not to her. "Her waist is fine. Her hands are lovely. She'll need higher heels." She was a figure to be fitted, not a bride to be celebrated. She did not smile. The dress would take 3 days and 4 women to complete. The veil alone had traveled farther than she had ever gone. "I hope he likes it," one of the younger assistants whispered. Isabelle turned. "Do you know him?" The girl blushed. "Only from portraits. Everyone says the crown prince is handsome." Handsome and cold and missing. For though the court had been perfectly timed in its reception, the prince himself had not yet appeared. Later that evening, as Isabelle wandered through the East Wing's quiet corridors, she overheard two maids whispering near the kitchens. They say he didn't want a foreign bride. Wanted a widow or a duchess, someone with experience. Isn't she just 16? Barely. Poor girl doesn't even know. Their voices fell to a hush as Isabelle passed. She walked on without flinching, but her stomach tightened like a drawn cord. She found a mirror in her chambers and stood before it long after the servants had gone. The veil was draped across a chair. Her hair had been pinned to royal fashion. She looked like someone else. Not a girl, not yet a woman, certainly not a queen, just an offering. It was nearly midnight when he arrived. The chamberlain informed her with little ceremony. His Highness the Crown Prince requests a moment. She rose, heart stiff. When he entered, he did not bow nor smile. Prince Leopold of Austria was tall, with an elegant cut to his features, but his eyes were tired, shadows blooming beneath them like bruises. A scar traced a faint line at his jaw, a fencing accident perhaps, or something less noble. "I apologize for the delay," he said. "The Empire keeps odd hours." Isabelle curtsied. "It is an honor to meet you at last." His gaze flicked toward the window, where snow laced the sill. "They've given you the best room in the wing. I asked for it." She blinked. "Thank you." He crossed to the writing desk. There, a leather-bound book sat open beside a bottle with no label. "You're young," he said suddenly, turning back. "Too young for this." She straightened. "I was not given a choice." "Neither was I." He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Well then, we'll wear the crowns, say the vows, and see what remains after." He bowed, just enough to count. Then he left. She stood alone in the chamber, veil untouched, heart untouched. The crown awaited. So did the curse. It had been a month, 31 days of standing still while the world measured her, judged her, fitted her for a role she had never auditioned for. And now, on the evening of May 8th, 1881, she sat in silence while an empire waited to crown her. The gown hung like a ghost in the far corner of the room. It shimmered under the candlelight, hand-stitched, pearl-laced, beautiful in a way that mocked her, a masterpiece meant for an empress, or a sacrifice. There was a knock, soft, hesitant. The Baroness entered with a folded piece of parchment. "A letter, milady, from Leistrain, arrived by royal courier." She placed it on the vanity and withdrew without waiting for a word. Isabelle moved to the window instead. Vienna slept beneath a frost-bitten sky, its rooftops tipped in silver and ice. Somewhere below, the chapel had been dressed for mourning. Candles had been ordered. The Empress had approved the floral arrangements. And she, the girl in the tower, was already presumed grateful. She turned at last, sat before the vanity and unfolded the letter. It was her mother's hand. "My dearest Isabelle, if you are reading this, it means you are there, in the place we feared, hoped, and never truly imagined. I want to tell you that I lit a candle for you this morning, the kind you used to watch flicker on winter evenings, the kind we could never afford to waste, but you always said it made the cold feel warmer. I am not there to fasten your veil, nor to steady your hands, but I am here in this letter, with every breath I can give you from across the miles. They will tell you to be silent, to be graceful, to endure, and yes, there is strength in that. But Isabelle, do not forget who you are beneath the silk. You are not a decoration, you are not a treaty, you are my daughter, born not into riches but into quiet courage. Look them in the eyes when they try to make you smaller. Speak when your heart can no longer bear silence. And if you must be a crown, then wear it as a woman, not a statue. I am proud of you, not because of who you will marry, but because of who you have always been, even when no one was watching, with all the love this ink can carry. Maman." Isabelle folded the letter with deliberate care, each crease made with hands steadier than she expected. She did not cry. The tears had dried weeks ago, somewhere between the pinpricks of lace and the lessons in how not to speak. She slipped the page into the bodice of her gown, close to her heart, as if it could guard something still unbroken inside her. Outside, the wind scratched faintly at the window panes, and the chapel bells began their midnight toll, one for each hour left of her freedom. She rose. The veil hung beside the bed, pale as frost. She reached for it, not with fear, but with the kind of calm that comes only after drowning. Tomorrow, she would walk down an aisle carved in marble. Tomorrow she would belong to an empire. But tonight, in this moment, she belonged only to herself and to the woman who had once lit a candle for her in the dark. The morning of May 10th, 1881 arrived with pale light and cathedral bells, soft as breath, steady as a clock no one could slow. Dawn did not arrive gently. It spilled across the city in long, pale streaks, touching rooftops, kissing frost-covered railings, turning palace domes into softened gold. Bells tolled from the cathedral spires, each chime striking like the countdown of a clock no one could slow. The day began not with joy, but with movement. The palace hummed with preparation, as if this were celebration. But it was a funeral in white lace. She stands before the mirror. The gown fits, every seam precise, every flaw hidden. She looks like a bride. She does not feel like one. No one speaks, not as the veil is pinned into place, not as the necklace is fastened around her throat, an heirloom once worn by women who had married better men, or at least more willing ones. She says nothing. She breathes carefully. He had not written to her. He did not know what to say to a girl promised something he no longer believed in. The carriages arrive, the chapel doors open, guests rise, all eyes turn. She appears, draped in pearls, laced in silence. She walks slowly as if time itself has weight. No groom. She reaches the chapel's entrance. Still, no groom. Whispers begin. He is not here. He is not coming. He's gone. She stands beneath the vaulted ceiling, her back straight, her hands steady, her face unreadable. She does not cry. She only closes her eyes. She had been promised a crown, but perhaps she had been given a curse instead. The chapel doors opened, but the groom never came. Now, behind the palace walls, silence spreads like smoke. Was it nerves? A secret illness? A mistress no one dares name? The whispers grow louder, echoing down corridors carried behind fans and folded letters. And Isabelle, draped in silk, weighed down by silence, must walk forward into a marriage that hasn't even begun. Tune in for part 2 this Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you never miss a secret, a scandal, or a whispered truth. Because in Osteria, even fairy tales bleed.